So, hi, I'm Reiko, and I am one of the AAC SLPs at the North Vancouver School District. I also teach at UBC in the speech pathology program, and I am here with my good friend, Stacey, who I've asked to be here because she works at a very, very special program. So, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacey Harpel, the Client Service Manager at CAYA. CAYA is a provincial program, and we'll get into that, but I've worked in AAC for 28 years solely, so I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And yes, we are very good friends.
Okay, so do you want to put your slides up and we'll talk a little bit about Kaya?
Sure. Let me tell you about CAYA. CAYA is an acronym for Communication Assistance for Youth and Adults. CAYA was created in 2005 and supports adults 19 years and older who require augmentative alternative communication. Since 2012, CAYA has been formally included in the BC provincial budget. CAYA now provides service to all eligible adults through their whole lifespan, from after high school till they're elderly. We're funded by the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction in the province of BC. Our mission and mandate is important to us. Our mission is that CAYA provides ongoing personalized communication tools and supports to adults in BC with complex communication needs in collaboration with our other support networks. That's an important part to maximize participation, self-determination, and quality of life. Our vision statement is really important to us, and it kind of takes our breath away. It's a world of communities with no communication barriers, and that's what we're all striving towards. We have 9 areas or concentrations around the province of BC, and each area has a speech pathologist and a speech pathologist assistant. And in these areas or these regional pairings, we have different centers throughout the province. We also have an operational staff here at our headquarters with a program manager, which is not me, that's Lois Turner, and a client service manager, hi, Stacey, office supports, technical supports, and loan banks. That's a really brief overview of who we are. Here's a picture of us. That's a little old too, but here's CAYA.
So thanks for that presentation, Stacey. I have a few questions for you now. And so again, I'm looking at your program from the lens of an SLP or a family that's supporting a teenager in a high school in BC and is about to transition into the big wide adult world. So who can be referred to your program?
Anybody whose communication verbally does not meet their daily needs. In other words, they're not able to use verbal communication to get through their day and to establish those relationships.
Okay, and how do we refer?
I would go to our website. It's the easiest, fastest way, kayabc.net.
Excellent. Any AAC user in high school could look to Kaya to support the transition out of high school.
Yes, we do ask that there's a communication champion and that somebody that would do that work for them.
Excellent, excellent.
Occasionally, we have a student that fills out their own referral, but that's very occasional.
So usually it's the family that fills it out.
Either the professional team, the speech path, OT, or family.
Excellent. And just to clarify, just in BC,
Just
BC
in
Canada.
BC. Our mission and mandate must be in
Okay.
BC. They must have a healthcare number. If you've just moved here, it takes 3 months to get a personal health number, and you do need
Okay.
that.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. That's actually really important information for families that are just moving to BC. Thank you for that. So what can families of kids transitioning out of high school expect from your program?
An important part of CAYA is that we attend the transition meeting from the school. And that's really, really important. We want to see what the communication environments, who their communication partners are. We need an SLP report. We want to see what devices that they've been using, what their low tech, mid tech, or high tech is, so that we can either replace it or establish that a new assessment might be needed down the road.
Great. And then so I know that in schools sometimes we're a little bit spoiled and we may have, depending on our district, had somebody sort of following us for a really, really long time. What do services look like for somebody who's leaving high school?
After the transition meeting, there will be usually an active cycle. And in those active cycles, you have 4 months with an SLP and an SLPA looking at your technology, making sure you have a backup system, introducing you into CAYA. Then you go on to a monitor. And in monitor, if something happens with your technology, you can call and we can fix it. We have technologists to help with that. And then down the road, if after a few years there's been growth, we can look at a reassessment. And we're kind of with you off and on through the progression of your life.
That's really, really great. And like what if there's an issue with the technology?
Our SLPA usually calls and sees if they can do some gentle problem solving. Then we have a technician, and if the technician says it needs to come in, then it comes in and we assess if we need to replace or fix that technology, and then it comes back out to the student, who we call our client.
Amazing. Now, this is a really great program. What's the cost to families?
This is not a paid program. You will not need to pay for anything.
That's really reassuring, I think, for families to know that. I know that as families like that are leaving high school and aging out of programs, they are losing some funding, right? Like some families have autism funding, which is no longer after we're 19. And so I know a lot of people are wondering, like, how am I going to pay for all these things? So it's good to know that at least their AAC systems will be taken care of.
In 2005, Jeff and Lois made this program, because so many people would transition out of high school and then not have those supports. It's very important. We don't just see students or youths, we see everybody who has difficulty with communication. If they're older, after strokes or some of those big diseases, MS, Huntington's, ALS.
Yeah, yeah. I know that I've had some friends actually who've had parents with those issues as well, and I've had them refer their parents to CAYA. So I feel really good knowing that actually I know about their program, and also my mother-in-law's friends. I haven't referred my mother-in-law. I referred my mother-in-law's friends as well. So it's good to know that this is provincial because some of those people don't live in Vancouver, right? And I think that in Vancouver you're like, oh, there must be some program, but you forget that in places like Terrace or Port Hardy or whatever that you can still get these
Prince
services,
Rupert.
right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so important to know that. Awesome. So I contacted some of my families and asked asked some questions and had some responses. So one of the questions that came from one of the teams was, what are some things that school teams can work on leading up to the high school transition?
Oh, thank you. That's so important for us. Um, One of the most important things is that we have an SLP report, so that we
Excellent.
understand why that piece of technology was important to the client, and tell us how that language is progressing through the technology. Another incredibly important thing to know is who their communication partners are, what strategies and how they communicate with them. We take that incredibly important information and then we look at their adult life. Can they use it in all situations? What pieces do we need to add? Is there anything that might need to be taken away because it was more high school based rather than the rest of their adult lives?
And also what they're going to be doing and what new vocabulary that they might need for those
Hmm.
situations too.
Are they
Yeah.
going to a day program? Is it going to be on a different home setting? Those things are incredibly important. Another really important thing is looking at what their recreation is. Are they swimmers? Or do they love going to recreation centers? We need to look at what those environments are and how they communicate in those environments. Another incredibly important thing is, do they have a backup of their high-tech system? That's so important for us. We don't want those special vocabularies that spent years to go to waste. We want to have that access. We also need the system backed up before they leave school so that we can access that.
As a SLP in schools, I always keep a student's backup for, I probably shouldn't do this actually, but I keep it for a couple years in like a inactive file just in case I get a frantic email from CAYA saying there's no backup help.
Thank you for that. That is incredibly important.
Yeah,
If also there is a low-tech system that they use when their technology is down, that's really important as well.
that is really important.
And if they don't have
Great.
that, we can do that in an active when they're active with us. They're an active
Excellent.
service.
Excellent. And what about SLPs? What can SLPs do to support these transitions?
Attend the meeting when we're all together talking about after school, what's next, so the transition meeting, to make sure that there's a report and that that information that is functional and incredibly important is in that report. That saves so much time for the student. It's incredibly important, actually.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh,
Are there any assessments that you recommend that are easy for an SLP to do?
There's so many assessments out there. Any of them that are functional and do a sort of broad perspective. Yes, of course, I have my favorites, the Matrix. I have a lot of favorites,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
whatever the professional does often means that their content knowledge is up here and that
That's
it's
true.
easier
That's
for
true.
them to put that information in there. So I'm going to
Yeah.
go with the answer of whatever they are most comfortable with.
That's a great answer. My preference, if you're not using anything and not comfortable with anything, I like to use the communication matrix, which is free online, and the DAG, the Dynamic Assessments Gold Grid, third edition, from Toby Dynavox. And so what I can do is I can link both of those, but those are the ones that I like to do prior to school transition. And sometimes for some students, I also do a little bit of like a literacy checklist kind of thing. My favorite
Oh,
is the
that's nice.
snapshot. Yeah,
That's
my
very
favorite is the
nice.
snapshot assessment to early literacy behaviors, but it's like out of print. But a lot of people have copies. And so anyways, I'll link what I can in maybe on my website and put everything together, and I'll also maybe put a copy of my discharge report, with the caveat that I do delete a lot of stuff when like I have little blurbs for various assessments and then delete them if they're not used, so it's like 17 pages. But I think it's important for, CAYA to know, especially because sometimes the parents don't know. They're like, we did this thing before and it didn't work and we didn't like it. So now we did this other thing. And they don't necessarily know the names of those systems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So,
is really important because when you get into
mhm,
the adult world, the system that you have might not be the only system that you need. And to know what you've
totally.
already done before can help you with what you're going to do next.
Yeah. Like I have one student who has some hand function, and we've tried direct access over the years a number of times. And he has decided himself that he wants to use switch access, right? And so that it's his choice. It's great. I am fully supportive of that decision. But I think that it's important to know that we did try it and it doesn't work for him because of X, Y, and Z, and that he himself prefers switch access. And for people to know that this student is capable of that level of decision making and that level of self advocacy as well. So, yeah, I like to include that kind of information.
I think it's probably incredibly pivotal and the client be a part of everything. We can't
Hmm.
force our opinions or thoughts on anybody and think of that as successful. It needs to grow together.
Thank you so much. One last thing. As somebody that's supporting a student leaving the high school system, is there like a deadline for these referrals to come in?
We say anytime after January of the year that you are graduating, that will be appropriate. Now, a lot of people apply and put in the referral for service. And in June, they decide that they're going to do another post back year or a grade 13. That's fine. All we have to know, and we will keep all of that information. But don't wait until June to make the application if
Yeah,
you think you're going to graduate that year. June is too late and too busy for a lot of us to do the transition meetings. We need to know of them ahead of time.
absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. And I think that lots of families are going to find this really helpful. Any last minute thoughts?
We're on a journey together, and in CAYA, we will be there for decades in your growth. And we look forward to doing that journey together.
I love that. Thanks, Stacey.
Thanks, Reiko.